And a good day to you. Welcome. Following for many of us a long 3-day holiday weekend. Take two with Jerry and Debbie getting underway here. I'm Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgiani and you. And we have the show team. Debbie, we know we have Rich on the board. Is Ryan back? Is Ryan back on the phones?
We'll have to get confirmation from Rich. Ryan, it's either Ryan or Michael.
Yeah,
how's that?
It is Ryan.
It's Ryan.
He's back. All right, cool.
Ryan Penny is back on the phones. That means it's going to be just full phone lines because everybody loves to talk to Ryan.
And Jeff Burson does our social media. Thank you to the affiliates, and thank you, listeners. You're the ones who drive the show. It's Take Two, and we have, Debbie, I think, a little bit of an interesting, maybe sad in a way, maybe provocative topic today that I think a lot of people are going to want to weigh in on.
We do. Sometimes we take on some more lighthearted issues, but they always weave into our spirituality, and then we tackle the tougher ones. And I believe this one's going to be a kind of a tough one today, but we need your help. So we are asking the question, is your city dying? Okay.
What?
And Jerry's... I know. Well, Jerry's going to explain this because we both watched a documentary about Seattle and other cities as well. And Jerry's going to explain this in a moment. But while he does that, would you start dialing the cell phone that's probably in your hand and dial this number, 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986, because you are probably going to have something to say about this. Jerry, why don't you share about the documentary?
Yeah, Debbie and I were in Seattle a few months ago for a pledge drive for the Catholic Radio Network there. And Debbie brought to my attention this documentary that she had found on YouTube. It's titled Seattle is Dying. And it would have been of interest to me no matter what, but Seattle is my hometown. And I thought, Seattle is dying? Wait, what's going on? So I watched this, and it's an expose by a TV news reporter in Seattle about all of the tent cities that they have around town, the homeless, the drugs, the crime, the theft that's going on. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And I hope that most of you, if not all of you, went to the Take2Show.com website, because I posted a link to the documentary there, and hopefully some of you were able to see that. But Seattle is one of the most gorgeous places on the face of the earth, especially when it's a nice sunny day. You can see Mount Rainier all the way down to the base, the Olympic Mountains, the Cascades, all of the outdoor things to do. It's the birthplace of Microsoft, birthplace of Costco, birthplace of Starbucks. So much has been done there, in and through the people there. But Debbie, this very disturbing documentary it's really bothered me ever since I saw it there, and it got me thinking, how does this tie into our faith? Debbie, there are so many ways it ties into our faith.
Oh, absolutely. And it can even it could even tie into the discussion about immigration as well. I mean, there's so many ways that we can look at this, because it impacts our cities and it impacts souls. And we need to talk about this because this is a reality. And Jerry, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit sorry that I introduced that documentary to you. But are you glad you saw it? I mean, it was eye-opening, right?
Well, yeah, it was very eye-opening. What can be done? I mean, is the horse so far out of the barn that nothing can be changed? It seems like what's mind-boggling to me is the police officers are basically told not to enforce the laws on right. Things people do on the streets, on the amount of drugs you can carry, about theft, about weaponry, about indecent exposure. And so they anonymously polled and surveyed a number of police officers. They'd gotten not one positive response from them, but so many of them. One of them said, Debbie, this was really one of the cherries on the ice, the cake for me. He said, I got into the police force because, all of the typical noble reasons why, I wanted to do good in my community and help keep the law and all this. And he says, for me and for so many of us, it's now gotten to where it's nothing more than we're exchanging time for a paycheck.
Oh,
this is a police officer saying all we're doing is exchanging time for a paycheck. So I want to know, anybody in Seattle or up the Northwest listening, what about you in your town, friends? What are some of the problems that you see in this regard, and what can we do about this? What can we do? Because Debbie, the homeless, the tent people, a lot of them are there because they want to be. They choose to be there. Many are not, though. So how do we draw that line, and how do we serve those who are most in need, while at the same time recognizing the fact that they are breaking laws? And if you don't enforce the laws, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So the question we're asking, is your city dying? I mean, this is a problem across the nation. I understand that on Fox News they're doing they're spotlighting different cities on, I believe it's Tucker Carlson, spotlighting different cities. I know Portland has an issue, and San Francisco, and LA, and now San Diego, and across the nation. And so let's talk about this. What can we do about it? Do we need to contact our leadership and say, hey, we want something done? I mean, do you guys think it's a little weird that people that are leading our country are sitting in mansions when the people that are homeless are right about a half a mile from their house? I mean, that's a little strange, don't you think? I mean, let's talk about this. I mean, this is really problematic on many levels. 833-288-3986. That's the number to call to get on your show. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you. You are the key person. So don't sit this out. Don't take notes. I'll take notes for you. And don't just listen. We want you to participate. Right, Jerry?
We do. And there have been people, Debbie, who have men and women who have left the police force in Seattle because of this. There have been people who have moved out of the area. They interviewed tourists on this documentary, and basically they said, we're never coming back here again. And by the way, this is not Bash Seattle Day. I love it. It's my hometown. But it breaks my heart
Seattle's
to see
beautiful.
what's going on. Yeah. And Debbie, one thing that I didn't believe it when she told me this, but my late sister, they lived in gorgeous Silverdale, Washington, across Puget Sound to the west, and she and her husband would drive into Seattle or take the ferry every day to go to work. My sister once said to me, she goes, as soon as I get out of the car, I smell the urine, I smell the feces all over the city streets. I thought, Mary, come on. You get
She's
out of it.
Exaggerating.
It can't be that bad. And Debbie, it is that bad because I now have experienced it. And so it just begs the question, how do we make our cities, our towns, our country, dignified and safe and a wonderful place that it always has been. It just really is. It's going downhill in so many ways.
Help me with this, Jerry. On that documentary, I can't remember. Because I can't remember what I ate for dinner yesterday. But on that documentary, did they talk about the city council and the leadership, the mayor and everything, how it's been a problem? Because, that's the other thing, too. We've got to look at it from the top down. So many things are greed-driven, money-driven, and this is not safe for all of us, and especially our children. I mean, would you want your children to be in a city like that, walking through the streets and having to endure that? It could be a health hazard, Jerry. So we got to talk about it.
A lot of angles here. 833-288-3986. Whether you're from Seattle or not, what do you see in your area or around the country that needs our attention and our prayers?
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
Father John Riccardo.
When you and I come to Mass, we're accustomed to thinking of the beginning of the Mass, what we call the liturgy of the Word, as a time when someone or someones, they kind of get up, they read from this book, which most of us have limited understanding of, about a people who we really don't grasp, with names that are very hard to pronounce, which we feel embarrassed about saying out loud, because you just know people are going, who's Shealtiel, for crying out loud, When the Word of God is proclaimed at Mass, it's happening now. It's an event. The wondrous deeds that God has done in human history are being proclaimed in our midst now, and to that, you and I have to respond. And we do respond. We either respond with, so what? I don't care. This is irrelevant to my life. Or we respond by saying, yes, Lord, I believe this, and I want you to take over more and more of my life.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Thanks for being with us. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we're asking the question today, is your city dying? This is based off of, Jerry and I both watched this documentary on Seattle and what's happening in the cities there with folks living on the streets. And it's very troubling. And so we want to talk about that. Is that happening in your city? But real quickly, Jerry, I just wanted to say that I got some good news, okay? EWTN Radio debuts a new show this Saturday morning. Very, very exciting. It's called Doctor. Jerry, don't break into song. Give me the news, right?
Got a bad case of loving you, yeah, right.
That's right. Isn't that a great song? Okay, Doctor discusses practical and current medical topics with a focus on the dignity of the human person, body and soul. I love that. It's a trustworthy source of medical information and advice for Catholics and everyone else. Doctor is the official radio program of the Catholic Medical Association. It debuts this Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern on EWTN radio. I'm very excited about this show. You know how I feel about mind, body, spirit, anything, right. and talking to doctors is a good thing. There you go.
I'm not going to break into song, but I broke into a big smile because this show was originated at Redeemer Radio in Fort Wayne and South Bend, and it's Dr. Tom McGovern and some of his colleagues. And I remember when they were putting the show on live, and they told me about the idea, and this is going to be great. And I was hoping and praying it would be syndicated by EWTN. It's a great show. These guys are so good at what they do. So I encourage everybody to take a listen to that. But today we're talking about is your city dying? Are there troubles in your city? We're basing this kind of on the documentary "Seattle is Dying" that was done by a news journalist in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And so we have a line open that is available for you at 833-288-3986. We're going to start with Ken. Oh, Debbie, go ahead. You got something?
I just want to say real quickly, I have nothing against people that have worked really hard and made millions and live in mansions. I just think it's strange when you see these documentaries or they go out in the streets and talk to the people that live in the city and work in the city. And then you see that some of our leadership lives just a few feet away. It's a little strange to me. Something's wrong. Wouldn't you say, Jerry? I mean, I have nothing against wealthy people, nothing against it. I just think it's really bizarre to me.
Well, yeah, and we find that all over the place, and it is unfortunate. But again, like you said, if God has blessed people with abundance, praise be to God for that, and thanks God especially for those who are good stewards of it. But it is sometimes a little bit of an odd juxtaposition, especially, like you said, when some of those individuals who are very, very comfortable in life, might be just looking the other way and might even be in a position of authority or leadership, like That's on a city council or a mayor or something like that. So
that's what I'm talking about.
You want to take us to Ken?
Yes, Ken in Graham, Texas on Guadalupe Radio Network. Thank you for being first up here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Jerry. Hello, Debbie. I appreciate you guys bringing this topic up. I have some thoughts about it. I appreciate the opportunity to share. I have seen this video you're talking about, the Seattle is Dying, and I've had quite a bit of firsthand experience with homeless people. I've worked on the streets in in Fort Worth. There's a lot of homeless people. I've worked on the streets. I've actually taken homeless people into my own home, so I know firsthand, what it's like. And the first thing I'd say is that that video, it was very hard to watch. It was very, very shocking and difficult to watch, but at the very end of the video, they did present a very homelessness happens for many reasons. There's drug addictions, there's sickness. A lot of people end up that way from sickness. They have illness and it just sucks up all their resources and their ability to take care of themselves, and they end up on the street. I would say that's as predominant as drug addiction in my own experiences. But at the end of that video, they presented a very powerful solution to drug addiction that I think it was the state of Maryland.
Rhode Island, I think.
You guys might remember. Rhode Island, okay.
Yeah.
Very powerful a solution that's working, of taking, instead of giving these people safe injection sites and ignoring them and letting them, run around in lawless disorder, they're kind of pushing them into rehabilitation, and if they don't accept it, they shouldn't be allowed to run the streets and in lawlessness like that shows. But I mean the rehabilitation program that they have in that Rhode Island clinic was quite amazing. So I wanted to make sure you guys talked about that, because that was a very powerful solution.
It was. Debbie, I know you have something you'd like to share, and then I can offer maybe a comment or two as well. But Ken, you're bringing up a great point here. Go ahead, Deb.
Well, Ken, it's interesting because I must have missed that portion of the documentary. It was very, very hard for me to watch, so I kind of passed it on to Jerry very quickly.
She did.
But I did. But it was very. So I missed that. But it's interesting that you're saying this because last night my husband and I had this discussion, and he said, "Okay, Deb, if you could orchestrate how to take care of this situation, how would you do it?" And this is what I said, which it probably isn't even, enforceable. But I just said, wouldn't it be great if when you see somebody on the streets, living on the streets, and you can clearly tell that they are addicted or they have brain health issues or something's going on, could you force them to go into a rehab place? Could you actually force them, kind of almost like you would not arrest them in a bad sense, but arrest them to get help? Because I find that so many times people are throwing money and throwing, just a little bit of things to keep them going, but it's not really helping them. It's not getting them to the next level of productivity and on their own and being, independent. So it was interesting you said this, Ken, because I don't understand why we're not, I guess, using the police force or the city to is there a way to enforce that? Because I think it's just brilliant. We have a ton of rehab places all over the place. Ken, is that even possible? You would have more experience in this.
I would say that for the people that are drug addicted and actually drug addicted, that no doubt that they. It's against the law to be using drugs openly. They're possessing illegal drugs. They're using illegal drugs. So, they're breaking the law. They could definitely be arrested and done, and helped through legal means. The people now that there are a lot of people on the streets, and they say they're living in a insane ward with no bars. People that actually need mental health, and they're living, homeless on the streets. And those people, I guess offering them help may come in different ways. If they could be put into like there's some people, Jerry, you said it, some people want to live that way. And it, the people that want to live that way, that maybe they should be allowed to live that way in a place that doesn't negatively impact the community.
Right.
I just made a trip to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the homeless, all of a sudden, they started just descending upon, there's a place right in the middle of Albuquerque called the Big I, a big freeway interchange, and all of a sudden, all these homeless people set up a camp right in the middle of town, and I think that they've done something about it. But then on the other hand, you've also brought up the immigration. On the other hand, the governor, she literally took over the state fairgrounds and has made it a refugee center for these immigrants that are being recruited out of Central America, which just drives me crazy. A lot of these people that are coming are not fleeing violence, political persecution. A lot of them have been recruited in country since early last year by progressive open border organizations. Some of them even funded by grants from the U.S. government. Yeah.
Well, Ken, you're raising a lot of good points. Debbie, you as well. I think for me, the only things that I would add is a couple of things. One, we need to, obviously, as Christians especially, we need to be aware of the need that there is for homelessness and drug addiction, all of this stuff. We've got to try to somehow get them into places of help. How do we do that? That's a big discussion for another point. But I think you probably saw this too, Ken, on the video. There was that one gentleman who was arrested and for, very, very serious crimes and was released again like 24 hours later. He had a rap sheet really, really long, and he ended up breaking into the home of this 71-year-old woman and brutally beat her and raped her and stuff. And he had just been arrested and was let go right away. And when the news journalist looked into this, he saw all this history of violent crime and all this stuff. And this guy has never really been in jail that much. So, there's compassion, there's mercy, there's love. We got to show all of that, but there has to be justice as well. And everyone is capable of sin, even those who are unfortunate and down and out and so forth. So where do we find the balance between the two? I don't know.
Any final words, Ken?
One additional thing. Yeah. I would like to say one other thing is that homelessness, it knows no bounds. So, I mean, I just because I'm sensitive to it, I can spot it easy. I engage with the people easily. I've seen it all over the country in big towns and small towns. This town I live in Graham, Texas, it's 8,500, 9,000 people, maybe 9,000 people. We have homeless people living right here in this little town, and most people don't even know it. They're walking because they walk wherever they go, or they ride a bike, and people just think, oh, they're poor, but a lot of these people are actually living homeless in a camp somewhere. And so what do? You can do little things like, the city government could engage with them on an official means, and actually, if there's an encampment where there's multiple people, maybe, at least put some sanitation there, put some porta potties there for the people, or, make sure they have potable water to drink, and, make sure they're camped in a place that doesn't negatively impact the city. And then, and then this people can reach out to them. They can give them a meal, give them some work, and then like you said, there's special cases like those who have medical issues. They need to be engaged with and kind of offered the opportunity to get some help, because a lot of them a lot of them do engage in resources, but they just still live homeless.
Wow. Thank you, Ken, so very much. I mean, you really contributed to this conversation today and set the tone for us to take this to the next level and really start thinking about what we can do on an individual level, as a city level, on a state level, and as a country. So thank you so much, Ken. We really appreciate it. And we're going to, do we have time, Jerry, to move on to Tom? I think we do before the break. Okay, and Tom is in, do I get this right, Tom? Is it Saratoga Springs, New York, on Sirius XM 130? You're a first-time caller, Tom.
That is correct. I actually am driving through the rain, as always, up here these days.
Be safe.
Yes, I will. I'm in a small, Saratoga Springs is a small resort city, and homelessness has become kind of an ongoing problem. And to me, the worst part is it's so hard these days to tell who to help or who not to help, because the homeless people I see are often the same homeless people I've seen for years and years and years. The people panhandling at the corners of the shopping mall are the same people that have been doing it for years, and and to a large degree, they're people that are choosing to live, in whatever their life they're in, because our town is a very giving town. There's a lot of services. There's a lot of things going on to help people, and I just, it perplexes me is, how do you know who to help, who not to help? And I think that's a real problem, because I think that means a lot of people are just walking by everyone because all they see is the same people.
Right. Tom, good points, exactly. And you're right. You do see a lot of the same people there. And see, this onion has a million layers to it, because we've already talked about how some people are homeless due to really horrific circumstances in their lives. Some choose to be. Some don't really want to be, but because of maybe they fall into an addiction or they lose their job or something. So it's multifaceted. And I would even go so far as to say, this is only my own personal thought or speculation, I think there's human trafficking involved in some cases, especially those that you see at the freeway off-ramp or at the corner at the mall or the grocery store, because they're there all the time. And it's just easy that I think it could be very easy for them to be, trafficked by people, very powerful, strong people, and told to go out there. Hey, if you love your kids, you better get out there and raise some money and maybe cut it 50-50. I don't know. That's 1,000% speculation. So don't anybody, tell me or accuse me of saying that I'm spreading that as being the truth or anything. I just feel, Debbie, there are a lot of different things going on here.
Well, yeah, and Tom, you brought up a really good point, because I feel the same way. Last weekend, my husband and I came out of Mass, and just about 250 feet from the steps of the church were three homeless people, and they were sleeping and also, accepting money or anything else. And it was very interesting because everybody, of course, came out of Mass. And when you come out of Mass, you have this really good feeling inside of you have to help everyone, right? And so people were giving a lot of money. And my husband and I, we were walking, and my husband goes, well, are you going to give some money? And I said, no, I'm not. And he goes, why? And I said, because you see what's happening here? They're right outside of Mass, right outside of church. There's no accident to that. You can't tell me there's an accident to that. They're right outside of Mass. And I had talked to a homeless person in my area a couple months ago, and they said they can make as much as $50 to $100 a day. Now, is that really helping them get off the streets, or is it helping to feed their addiction or their problem? That really bothers me, and I don't want to feed into that. And I understand that people that do, because you shouldn't have to worry about you're doing something good, so don't worry about the outcome of it. I understand that, but I think it is something we have to ask, because are we continuing this problem? And Tom, hold on, we've got this quick break. When we come back, I just want to hear your thoughts on that, and I hope I didn't start just a flurry of calls coming at me about this one. But this is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We'll be right back.
Raymond Arroyo.
We need EWTN radio for the reason that Mother Angelica founded this enterprise. She saw this as a holistic approach, reaching the whole person, bringing them truth and life.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN radio.
Rory's an incredibly fit young man in training with the Marines. One of his comrades is flat out chubby. During training, they had to do 60 burpees in 8 minutes. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's a painful exercise. Marines were snickering at Rory's friend, and he was about to give up. Rory got right in his face and shouted above all the other voices, "You look at me. All you see is me. All you hear is my voice. You can do this." And he did. A week later, Rory's commander gave him the challenge. Everyone do 60 burpees in 8 minutes. Rory, you do 80 burpees in 6 minutes. At the end of his strength and unable to go on, his friend ran out of nowhere to his side. "Rory, you look at me. You can do this." And he did. When life's exhausting you and negative voices cause self-doubt to creep in, Jesus is there at your side, shouting at you, "You listen to me. All you hear is me. All you see is me. You can do this." Listen to him, friends. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
And if you notice, there's Catholic bashing everywhere you go. They'll have a whole program about nuns who have gone astray. They're hungry for freedom. What freedom? I got more freedom than all you have. I belong to the Lord God. I'm a spouse of Christ. Oh, what can you give me? A car? Keep it.
For more information on Mother Angelica, visit Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com.
Hi, this is Janet Williams. We embrace the essence of feminine spirituality on Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We're talking to Tom in Saratoga Springs, New York, on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're also asking the question, is your city dying? That's the question we're talking about today. The cities are being filled with more and more homeless, and what do we do about it as Catholic Christians? And real quickly, I just wanted to share, Tom, before I hear your response to what I said. I used to have dollar bills I used to give out, and then I was told by a person that works with the homeless not to do that, to give meal certificates or little cards to the nearest St. Vincent de Paul where they can get a hot meal or something of that nature. So that's what I do, just so you know. I hope that's okay with everybody who's listening, but that's what I do, and I feel good about that because at least they're getting a meal. Tom, what do you think about what I shared?
Well, I think it's interesting. My wife happens, and she's not doing it right now, but she was still recently was the head of the outreach at our church, and so actually some of this was causing problems because what was happening is there was some of these repeat people were showing up looking for help from my wife. And there's a school there, and actually, some of the school people were getting frightened by people because they would show up and they would approach my wife, or they would approach people in the parking lot, and so it was causing a real problem. I actually, for a while, tried something similar to what you said. I actually tried the idea of giving a card with my wife's name on it and saying, contact my wife and she'll try to help you because she had access to the, to the services of the area. But none of those people never called her. That, even though, she had the ability to, give food, give money, or to, send for the right services. Again, I think your idea is a good one. I think just a meal is a good idea versus cash, but boy, it's a real problem because I think it's causing a backlash. I saw a backlash in our church where people are just a little scared by the whole process now.
Yeah. Yeah, again, Tom, thank you so much. And there are multiple solutions here, but I think for me and Debbie, it sounds like for you and for Tom and for so many of us, it's become really a challenge to be Christ to them, because how do I do that? Is it money? Well, you said no, probably maybe give them a meal or instead. I have on numerous occasions saw people down and out begging for money outside of a fast food restaurant. I say, come on in, let's go in. And I bought this guy lunch one day, and I bought him a whole bag of other stuff to take with him for the next couple meals. Mm-hmm. I used to go to, when I lived in San Diego, I would go downtown, I would take food there, and I would sit with these guys, right there on the street, on the sidewalk, just sit with them, because sometimes they just want to be acknowledged. They just want someone to love them and affirm their humanity and their dignity. And I'm not touting my own horn here. I'm just saying for me and for all of us, it's gotten to the point where what do we do about this?
Exactly.
Okay, the cities aren't doing anything about it. And
our leadership isn't.
Yeah, leadership. So, yeah, it's... Mm-hmm.
I know. It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Well, and Jerry, I've actually had, when I've handed the St. Vincent de Paul card to folks, I've actually had it rejected. They've actually said to me, can you give
thanks.
me... Yeah, they said, no, thanks. Can you give me money instead? And I'm like, no, you can get a meal here. This is... See, and that's what do you do at that point? Tom, thanks again. We really appreciate you adding to this conversation and also being a first-time caller to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Okay, Roseanne is up next in Indiana on Sirius XM 130. Roseanne's been waiting so patiently. Welcome to Take Two.
Thank you. I lived in Seattle for 18 years, and I've been gone from there probably about 7 years now. Our church, at the time that I lived there, had what they called Tent City, and we would host, along with other churches, the Catholic Church was my church, and along with other churches that did host Tent City as well, we would keep people on the property for, I think it was 4 months, 3 or 4 months, that we kept them at our church, and then they would rotate. That program stopped, and when it did stop, the majority of those people ended up downtown Seattle. I don't know why it stopped, but it did. I think that it's not so much that there's a bunch of rich people there that aren't doing their share. I think more that it's the people that we hosted, it was no drugs. They were temporarily out of jobs. There were not like lifetime people that I just want to live on the street. But there are a lot of people that have absolutely no intention of getting a job and just want to live on the street. Those were not the people, as I said, that we hosted. But it's a definite issue there. As far as how to fix it or what's causing it, for me personally, I felt that Seattle and the surrounding area was extremely anti-Christian, and not only anti-Christian, but specifically pro-gay and extremely liberal. And it was hard to live there when you really loved the Lord and your church, because even the churches were not preaching truth in a lot of the stuff that was going on in the churches there as well. So it was a sad situation that got significantly worse after they stopped doing the Tent City.
Right. Rosette, thanks for your call. And you're right. I mean, it's no secret the Pacific Northwest, I think Washington and Oregon, in year after year surveys or whatever, are the most unchurched states in the United States. So it really is that way. And I was born in Seattle, Roseanne. I grew up out on the coast of Washington, but I have roots in Seattle. I lived there for a while myself. And I actually lived more years in Portland than I did in Seattle. And Debbie, you mentioned Portland at the start of the show, could be fit into this category that we're talking about today, about the homeless problems problems and the drugs and the crime and the theft and all of that. And I remember this was going on in Portland long before I really knew it was going on in Seattle. And I remember one time, I can sort of laugh about it now, but I was driving in downtown Portland one day and I saw one of the streets, people were just marching down one of the main streets in downtown and blocking traffic in every direction. And I learned later I had to drive through them, kind of cross traffic where they were going. They let me go through. And when I found out who they were, I was so lucky. It felt lucky that I made it through. It was an anarchist convention. Oh. So, yeah, when you talk about, Roseanne, when you talk about, godlessness and so forth, it's everywhere right now. But it's been in the Pacific Northwest for so long. Oregon was the first state to approve physician-assisted suicide. So, Debbie, these are no surprises that all of these things tie in together. Where God is sent packing, guess who's going to come in?
Absolutely. Roseanne, thank you so much. And, I just find it interesting, you're talking about the parishes had these tent cities. It's so interesting. The Christians were doing their part. Okay. And isn't it funny in this world that we as Christians are considered the haters, the ones who don't care. And, our liberal politicians, let's just face it, I'm arch conservative, folks, just so you know, I'll put that out there. But our liberal politicians are all talking a good talk, I guess. But what's really happening? It falls back to parishes, St. Vincent de Paul, Knights of Columbus. I mean, the Catholics and the Christians are standing up and trying to do their best, and it's being met with a lot of resistance. So it's very unfortunate. Roseanne, thank you. You shed some light on this topic, and it's very, very, very important that we discuss every angle of this if we're going to get a better handle on it.
Yeah, I think if the local and state and federal governments were to really hand off, complete solution finding to the church, we'd actually get somewhere.
Exactly.
Thanks, Roseanne, for your call.
Yeah, thank you,
George is next. George is in Malvern, Florida, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, George. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Very well, George. Thanks for your call.
Thanks, George.
Yeah. Hi, I've called you a few years ago, and I heard you talking about this subject. And as a concerned Catholic, it's just something that's always on my mind. I grew up in Brevard County, Florida's Space Coast, where we used to launch the space shuttles.
Sure.
And as a child, I never saw any of this homelessness, and I know it's been in the big cities for many years. And I was just a few years ago on one of the neighborhood watch sites, and they were talking about the crime. And I thought I knew my town better, and I looked up this neighborhood crime scout statistic for where I live. And I was very shocked to say that the little city that I live in is only safer than 6% of the cities in the United States as far as crimes go. And it's like, it's not even on the map compared to Seattle. So it disturbs me. It's like, wow, Melbourne, Florida has so much crime and burglary and assaults and robberies. Luckily, it's not a high murder rate or anything, but I'm noticing all of Florida has a very high crime rate. And I'm starting to just randomly run this little application and say, what's the crime rate there? And it just boggles my mind how high the crime is. It's like, our country has more opportunity than any other country in the world. And it's like someone said earlier, the more opportunities and more money we have, the more we can turn to sin and do stupid things. So it's like the more money we have, the more we destroy ourselves. The more opportunity we have, the more we destroy yourself. And it's like our society has turned to, not all of us obviously, but it seems like godless, celebrity worshiping, and any addiction, you name it, A to Z, is what matters, and forget everything else. And then as a Catholic, I feel compelled to want to help. But, we've got open borders that we can't control. We've got sanctuary cities. We're becoming a welfare state. Where do we put the brakes on and readjust and, get on the right path? And I like what Debbie said earlier. She's talking about, I'm walking out of Mass and all these people are there. It's like, wow, this is really crazy. It really trips you up when you're coming out all in peace and harmony and praising. And what occurred to me is like, I would love to ask these people that are asking for the money outside of Mass, hey, did you go into church and pray to God because he can change your circumstances? Only God can change this. We can't fix these problems. There's so many problems that we can't fix. Only God can fix them. But has this person gone into the church, got down on their knees and said, God, I need your help. I got an addiction or whatever it is, rather than just begging for money, because that's so easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You said a lot, George, and a lot for us to process, and all good stuff. I mean, stuff for us to think about. These are the conversations we want to have on Take Two, and also when we do the after show that's coming up in a couple weeks, because we want to really get to the heart of it and have people be real and not be just fed all these political narratives that we're supposed to believe, when we know that doesn't add up to the facts of what we're seeing. And George, you shared some of those things. So I agree with you. I mean, what do we do? I think as Catholic Christians, we do our very best to be Christ to everyone we meet, and with a well-formed conscience, whatever that is for you, and then that's important. You have to be able to, like Jerry said, distinguish, when to go up to somebody and talk to them, when to engage, when to just give support to the local initiatives that are helping these folks. It's a really tough time we live in, Jerry. This is a tough conversation, I have to tell you.
It is. Yeah, it's difficult. I love the fact that you brought in the after show, because again, George, and for everybody else, our fourth anniversary of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie is coming up on June 15th. That happens to be a Saturday. So on Friday the 14th, we are going to launch. We're not even sure what we're going to call it yet, but it'll be a show that we do after this one. We'll do this one for all the affiliates. We wish we could go on several more hours a day on EWTN, but we understand they have their other shows. So Debbie and I are going to have like Facebook Live or something. You'll be able to participate with your audio, your video, your written comments. So we'll have a great opportunity to continue the conversation after the show. We might not do it every day, but we'll let you know. And Debbie, I just want to interject a quick moment of good news, if I may. A good friend of mine in Boston said the Archdiocese of Boston just ordained 13 men to the priesthood this spring, earlier this month. And I believe that's may not be the largest class ever, but it's certainly one of the largest in many, many years in Boston. So congratulations there. And yes. Debbie, you and I have a beautiful, loving, wonderful priest who is a good friend of the show, Father John Gunningham. He is in my diocese, the Diocese of San Bernardino, California, and he was ordained 12 years on Saturday. So happy anniversary, Father John, and all of our priests. Happy
anniversary, Father. We know you're listening. You listen to the show on a regular basis. So God bless you for saying yes to your vocation. Okay, George, thank you again. We appreciate your comments on this. A lot to process, and we've got a full phone line. So we're going to move on to Kelly, and Kelly is in. Or was it? Or it's
we
Lola.
Got Lola first.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hold on, Kelly. Don't
Rich
move.
is too fast for you, Debbie.
Yes, I know. Lola in Houston, Texas, on Guadalupe Radio Network. I can't wait to get to Houston on June 28th. Lola, I'm speaking at the Fullness of Truth conference there. Hi, Lola.
Oh boy. Mm-hmm. Hi. I would like to tell you something that y'all may not know about people on drugs. My brother was on drugs, and he was married, and after stuff started leaving his house, like microwaves and different things, and ended up in a pawn shop, him and his wife ended up losing their house and everything because of drugs. After that, he went to live with my mom and dad, in which the drug dealers came after him for their money, and my dad had to end up making him either go into rehab or leave, so he chose to leave. After that, he decided to live under a bridge. And, okay, while he was living under the bridge, when he first moved out, he was getting, a few dollars here and a few dollars there. But after time passed by, he went in a neighborhood where people were pretty wealthy. Him and another guy, they would work the street together. Okay, a lot of people that you think are homeless, and don't have money, have more money than some people who live in houses. And I'm going to tell you why. My brother told me this with his own mouth. My brother used to put on his dirty clothes and make himself look homeless, and he would go into this neighborhood that was wealthy. One Christmas, a lady passed by in a sports car, gave him a leather jacket with $100 in each pocket. Okay, that's what got him started to be a panhandler. After that, when last time I talked to my brother was, I saw him, he was looking really good. When he wasn't panhandling or whatever, he would be all shaved and dressed up and everything. But when he wanted to get money, he would put on them old stinky clothes and make himself look like a bum, and he would go out there and he would get the money. Him and this guy that worked the street, they had enough money to live in a hotel every night. They shared the rent. Also, he told me on a Friday he made about $500 just on a Friday. He said on a good Saturday, he made close to $1,000. And he's dead now, and, you know, I pray for him all the time. He died at 66 because eventually, when you're on drugs, it's going to catch up with you. He had an aneurysm, and he did die. But I just want y'all to know that a lot of people, this is a hard thing to stop, because a lot of people that you see out there looking like that, they don't really look like that. Some of them people, even when I was a crossing guard at the school, I used to see a guy who was homeless, I thought, and then one day I drove by his house. I actually seen him sitting on the porch. He was all cleaned up, and he lived in the house. Some of these people are fake. They go out there to get the money. They might be on drugs, true, but they go out there to get the money because they make more money than they make if they were on a job. So this is going to be a hard problem to stop.
Yeah, tax, and it's tax-free, which even makes it more, enticing when they want to take on this as some kind of job. But Lola, maybe is that the reason, Lola, that people, when I would give them a St. Vincent de Paul card or a gift certificate to McDonald's, they would reject it? Is that the reason?
My daughter, she went out, got hamburgers from McDonald's and fish markets and everything and brought it back to the people. And some of them who are really homeless, they'll eat it. But my thing is, what I've been doing, and maybe I shouldn't do that, but I know the Bible says, when the Lord says, when you help the poor, you help him. So every time I stopped that I seen them, I would always give them money. And I don't know, maybe I should stop doing that, but it's just hard for me to do that, because every time I think of that verse, when the Lord say, when you help the poor, you help him, I feel like I should do.
Well, yeah, you're right, Lola. And Debbie, you made the point earlier in the show that your first concern is not, well, what are they going to do with this money? You know, it's kind of like when you tithe at your parish on Sunday. You're not thinking, well, is this money going to go to help pay the light bill or buy communion hosts or pay the youth minister? You don't worry about it. You're giving to Christ. And Jesus talks about, when you give to these unfortunate individuals, you are giving me, as Lola pointed out. So, Debbie, I think you and I and probably every one of our listeners will still continue to do this simply because we're saying, Lord, you handle the details, God. Right. I'm giving this because I'm giving it to you. And there are, as you said, Debbie, there are creative ways of doing it.
Yeah, there's creative ways, like with certificates or something like that. But Lola, you're a good soul. You're a beautiful soul. We're sorry that your brother has passed. I put your name in our prayer book, if that's okay, and your whole family, because you're just a beautiful soul. And we thank you so much that you graced this conversation today. And God bless you for just being Christ out there in the world. That's important. And we need more Lolas. Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. And I think Debbie and I were communicating via a chat box during Lola's call, and we were thinking maybe a part 2 of this program. Debbie, the anniversary show and the after show can't come fast enough. But you want to go ahead and just offer this topic again tomorrow? Because we have a lot of people on the line that we're not going to get to everybody, but...
Right. So if you're on the line and when we finish the show, please call back tomorrow and tell Ryan you were on yesterday's show holding and time ran out, and Ryan will happily put you at the head of the line to get onto the show for tomorrow. But we'll do a part 2 tomorrow. Do we have time? We have time for Kelly, though, right?
Because I promised hopefully a couple more. Yeah.
Okay, Kelly in Margate, New Jersey, on EWTN app. Kelly, thanks for waiting and welcome.
Hello. So I'm following up on the conversation from the man who spoke about the borders and immigration and the problem with tent cities and things like that being set up. So our Catholic Catechism states that we are free to emigrate, but when we must obey the law of the land when we do that. And that's not what's happening here in the United States at the border. And in fact, you have to think about this, it's immoral to enter a country under false pretenses if we're Catholic, and it's immoral to take money from taxpayers that don't belong to you under false pretenses of needing social services. Now, we got to look at McAllen, Texas, and Catholic Charities that is sending buses to the border to help set people up on social services and do things when we're not really sure of, the truth behind why they're coming here. And you did speak about the liberal politicians and things like that, but we have to face the reality that the USCCB is supporting a lot of this open border stuff. And, our bishops haven't made any statements about all the progress that the pro-life movement is making on the heartbeat bills and the Alabama bill. But as soon as Trump made a statement, our president, I don't mean to say Trump, but President Trump made a statement about the importance of managing our borders so that immigration becomes legal and merit-based, right away the USCCB makes a statement against that. Just like right away, they jumped on those kids from the Covington Catholic School at the March for Life. 3 bishops.
Well, Kelly, if I can, forgive me, Kelly, just for the sake of time. God bless you for your passion and your love for the church and your concern for these issues. And it sounds like you really do want compassion shown. You want justice done as well. And I just don't know that we can comment on a lot of that stuff because it's being, a lot of these decisions, like you said, are being made at the high levels, the USCCB level, the parishes, and so forth. Debbie, it just highlights again, the difficulty in issues like immigration and then the homelessness on the streets. How do you help? Whom do you help? When do you not help? Who's legal? Who's breaking the law? It's just we're in a real big mess right now, and we really need to all be on our knees asking God to really help us sort this out and do everything we can for anyone who is in need, no matter what their circumstances are.
Right.
That's my thought on it. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And Kelly, thank you so much for staying on the line and adding to this conversation as well. We're going to continue this tomorrow. So please be listening tomorrow to see what more we can learn from this and how we can process this correctly. Did you want to read one of the emails real quickly?
Yeah, we had the caller called in whose brother became the professional panhandler. Can you remind me?
Lola.
Lola. Yeah, Lola. If you're still listening, let's see here. Hold on one second. Here it is. Kim. Yeah, Kim just emailed take2@EWTN.com. Hi, I'm visiting my son in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He told us not to give money to people as that a good number of them have formed a union-like organization and they have specific corners for each person. They are even dropped off by a van to their location. It is a real problem in the downtown. God bless you both, Kim. And without in any way disparaging homeless people, Debbie, and those in need, there can be no question that there's a lot of shenanigans that's part of this. I suggested earlier in the show, these people might be being put up to it by human traffickers. Who knows? But you do see a lot of times someone who's out there with the dirt all over their face, and usually with a couple kids, and then you look over there and they've got a really brand new bicycle and a backpack and a cooler off to the side about 50 feet away where they have their lunch and cold drinks and stuff. So it just really makes puts us in a tough position as followers of Christ, I think.
It really does. And so let's continue this conversation, process it overnight, and we'll come back and we'll rejoin this wonderful, deep topic so that we can walk away understanding how we can start to behave as Catholic Christians in a way that we can feel comfortable, Jerry. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. That's what I think is happening with these documentaries and everything. It's making us very uncomfortable. We don't know how to respond or react and what to do, who to call, what to protest, what to add to. It's really troubling.
Yeah, and I know all of us, most of us, we want to err on the side of charity and compassion, and that's what I do. Debbie, you said that you do that as well, and we know you, the Take Two family, we know that's what you do as well. So between now and tomorrow, we encourage you to go to take2show.com. That's the number 2, take2show.com, and on today's post, maybe we can add it again at tomorrow's link, but there's a link to that documentary that spurred this conversation today called Seattle is Dying. I really encourage you to take a look at that and maybe hold it up against your own town and see, are there any similarities?
Right. So we count on you, folks. I mean, you drive the show. This is your show. Don't forget to like us on Facebook as well. Find us, Jerry and Debbie, on Facebook, because remember, we're getting ready to launch in a couple weeks the after show. And that's when we can really just have this, very vibrant conversation without the clock just ticking away. Okay. So make sure you like us on Facebook, Jerry and Debbie. Jerry?
Yeah, we want to be up to 1 million likes by the end of the week. So you really have to help us. Now, we're shooting for 2,000 next. We'll talk to you later. Have a beautiful and blessed day.
This is the home of Women of Grace.